What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. My name's Abe and I'm your host to help you guys get an IT job as fast as possible, 2 to 4 months. So if you've watched my 6-step process on how to get certified and get a job, great. Now you have a strategy. If not, go back and watch those 5 videos, but it's 6 steps, and then move on to this series of gaining those practical skills you need to be successful in IT, support desk, or cybersecurity. So let's get started. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using Workstation Player. In future videos, we will once again use Workstation Player over VirtualBox to teach you hands-on stuff inside of software and distributions and operating systems, right? To make you a fluid power user. So if you would like to also do this inside of Workstation Player with Windows, feel free. I would just recommend using Windows on your computer if you are already on a Windows computer. And I would say 90% of IT jobs are going to be done via Windows. That's why it is so important to be a power user when using Windows. So once again, these links will be linked below. Windows 10 Enterprise you can download and use for 90 days for free. So if you'd like to go this route, feel free. Then, once you download Virtual Workstation Player, you can create a new virtual machine, find the ISO file that you downloaded for Windows, install it, go through the wizard. It's pretty self-explanatory. It'll ask for the RAM, the CPU specs, and all that. Set up the machine and boot into it. In our case, we've already done this. So we're going to boot this machine. And let me make sure, let me make sure that this is off. There we go. So we're going to walk through some things that are important to be a good power user when using Windows. So I want to start with a couple things in the browser that I find useful, especially if you're trying to like help someone over the phone and you don't have a solution, right? So you're trying to come up with something on the spot, and being a good IT person is powerful Googling skills. But we're not going to go into all those things and the power of like Google and using syntax, right? But let's just say how to GP update on Windows, right? So in here we find an article that's interesting. Well, you can right click on it, open link a new tab, because we might have to try a couple different things to help this person that we're on the phone with, right? Well, that's extra clicks and it takes extra time. So instead of right clicking and doing that, if you take your middle scroll wheel and you just click, it'll open it up in a new tab already for you. This is just as good as well, because if you open something with that middle mouse click of the scroll wheel, you can close that tab with the middle mouse scroll wheel. Now, I'm a tab Nazi and I try to be disciplined about my tabs, but let's say you're crazy and you have so many open tabs that you can't see the X. So yes, you could click on a tab and then close it, and click on a tab and close it, and eventually, you know, your tabs might grow in size because you have less of them, right? Where your cursor could also be off of them. So another thing you can do to close those tabs is just to, once again, middle click your scroll wheel. So that can save you some time when browsing. Another thing within Windows that is extremely used is File Explorer. So you could go down here, open File Explorer, go to whatever file path or directory you need to use, but maybe you need to move files from one to another, right? So drag and drop, copy and paste, you know, you need to move files from one place to the other. Well, we can go down here, right click once again on the File Explorer and click File Explorer. But that's not fast and that's not efficient. So if you can click Windows key E, it'll open up another copy for you, just like that. So you can also go down here if you need to search for an application or specific file on your computer, click it and click type search. Well, if you click your Windows key, it pops up and it's already ready to type. So those are just a couple techniques for the starting of these videos to help you become a little bit more fluid within those. Another great one is if you click, wrong thing. So I did Control Alt. It's not. It's Control Shift Delete. So a lot of times people will call into a help desk and they will say, hey, I can no longer get into my portal. The website's not loading, but I have internet connection, right? Well, more times than not, it's usually a DNS error. Especially a lot of companies will have private networks, right? VPN networks from building to building or like campus to campus if they're like a bigger company with multiple locations around the country, around the world. Well, this can be a DNS issue, right? Or it could be a caching issue, or maybe the night IT maintenance team did something with the switching in the network or the database caching servers, and your computer is trying to pull from an old cache or an old directory of cache that's no longer there. So it's hitting a dead end. So if people are having these browser web application issues, it's really best practice to start simple with them, where anybody inside of their browser can click Control Shift Delete and then just have them go back all time, which can be annoying because it does reset their passwords. Hopefully the company uses single sign-on, but have them clear their browser history and their cache and try to go back to that website. More times than not, it'll solve the issue. So a good thing to consider. So we have a couple more things related to cache and resetting that we can do. And I have some notes over here if you keep seeing me look to make sure I don't miss anything. I'm trying to keep these videos in bite-sized pieces so you can take them, learn from them, go practice them, and get that hands-on without like having a list of 100 applications. So, okay, sorry, I did a little bit of trial and error here, but essentially we are going to move on to the power of the command prompt within Windows when trying to help people or yourself solve some issues. So I have a list of some things that I would like to cover, and I'm trying to keep this nice, short, and sweet, but some important things that I have used on a day-to-day basis or close to, at least on a weekly basis, that could help you guys be, once again, a more fluid power user. So the first thing, I have notes over here I keep looking at, is the help command, though. So this is a great one if you're not really sure what you're looking for or what the syntax is, but help will give you a list of things and what it does. So like CD, change directory displays the name of, or change this is the current directory. So if you want to figure out what your current directory is or whatever, you could use that. But this is just a great list to go to real quick to give you an idea. And once again, each of these have like sub options and things you can do, which we'll have some examples moving forward. So the next thing is, normally within Linux, you could type clear and enter to clear all this crap, right? Within Windows, we're just going to type CLS, and CLS will clear the command window. And now you see, try to scroll up, and that's as high as it goes. So you don't want to do that if you're like referring to information above, but it is great if you're trying to start over with a nice clean path. So the next thing that I would like to cover that I think is a good one is netstat. So netstat displays your TCP or your Udemy thing. So we can see that this IP address we have, right, is connected to all these things, whatever it is. Either the state of it might be established, closed, or whatever. So you could see possible connections. Maybe you're looking for a specific connection, IP address, port number to see if something's connecting properly to an address or somewhere else, right? There's plenty of use cases. You'll figure out how these go, but network status of your connections is important for a lot of things. As we get into higher level cybersecurity stuff, knowing what it's connected to is important, and it could also partially be a part of numeration to see if you maybe have a possible botnet in the background or something connected to that computer and it's communicating with a command and control server. So the next one we want to go over, well, I guess I should say here too, actually with IP config, or excuse me, yes, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So IP config is another great one where we can see just some basic stuff about that local computers. Ethernet adapter. So we have one Ethernet adapter, Ethernet 0. The IPv4 address of our device, like just up here, is once again this right here, our subnet mask, and the default gateway of where this computer is connected to. Now this can be nice and simple because maybe a computer's not getting an internet connection, right? And we're trying to figure out why. Well, if you did this and it doesn't have an IP address, or maybe the IP address is the wrong IP. Maybe the company has multiple classes of IP addresses, and somehow throughout all the networking problems, this computer isn't a part of the same subnet. So we could figure that out really easily and be, okay, this is not a host or a user end issue. This may need to be escalated to our networking team to get this device on the right subnet so it has access to the internet, as an example. So once they have done that, let's say the IT team goes in and fixes this issue and puts them on the right subnet. Instead of restarting the computer, if it doesn't auto pick up that new IP address, another great command we can do is IP config /flash DNS. So we successfully flushed the DNS resolver cache. So maybe it was reaching out and we were trying to get this information, and we can flush the DNS cache, and now it's going to go out and try to pull all this information again for this specific host or this specific computer, right? So that's another great one. Another great one we can use as well is renew. So Windows IP configuration is renewing the IP address for this computer. So we can renew it, and hopefully it'll be assigned the new correct one. So these are two ways of flushing DNS related stuff with caching and the IP address. All right. So once again, great ones. You could do SU, and that could put the U into a privileged user account. So if they're like on their local machine, but you need to do something on the computer, you could do SU username, whatever, get into that privileged user account to maybe run a command or get into access to more settings on the computer to help solve this issue. So it's a great one to consider. Who am I is also a great one. Maybe you are working on this computer and you're trying to make sure that you did successfully log in as a root user or a privileged user, and you can check that by typing who am I and then verifying, like in this case, that it's the correct user, right? So another great one is pinging. Let's say now we updated the computer, it's got an IP address, it's got the correct IP address. We want to just reassure real quick that we help the customer solve the problem. So we could do a ping request to an IP address that we know or to a website. So we could ping to google.com. And we can see that it pinged Google. So we have successful internet connection, and that problem for that customer is solved. If you're working help desk, or maybe you're IT support help desk, like in person, you're helping, just internal employees with their computer related issues. We can see it sent 4 packets, it received 4 packets, and we didn't drop or lose any of those packets, right? So that's a great one. Another one is GP update, which I've seen used a lot. So this one applies to all Active Directory changes or permissions to the host. So let's say that you needed to be added to a permissions group within Active Directory, and now you're trying to use that, and you don't want to restart your computer. Maybe you restarted your computer and it still didn't try to pull from the new permissions group. So what we can do is we can do GP update /force. So GP is group policy update. So we can force the computer to go and search Active Directory for new permissions. And then once we do, they'll reflect on the computer. So that's a great one as well. This is going to kind of round it up. We went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We went over 10 things plus some other stuff. So I think this is a good median and a good way to start. So I hope this gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what it means to be a power user, and how like little things and clicks and shortcuts can improve your productivity very well. So please stay tuned for more videos in this series, going from being a computer power user to a full cybersecurity analyst, pen tester, whatever your dreams and your career goals are. I appreciate you guys watching. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you found this video useful or you'd like to see more content. My name is Abe. I'm your host, and we'll be back with another video.